I'm Denise.
And we're Hopelessly Lost.
There were 3 main storylines in last night's episode, and we thought we'd do something different, just break those 3 down, because they're pretty interesting.
Well, that first storyline, well, one of them anyway, was about Jack and his son. His son? Where'd Jack get a son? But it turns out he has a son who's about 13 and a mean piano player. That was one of the big shockers of this episode. Another thing that happened in that timeline is that Jack revealed that he had his appendix out as a kid when he was 8 years old. Now, if you've been following Lost, you know that he had his appendix out on the island.
Which is where I always like to get my appendix taken out.
Yes, and Juliet took it out with no anesthesia. In fact, he helped it along, didn't he? Yes.
Yeah.
So that confuses things quite a bit. But if you think about it, if Jack had his appendix out when he was 8 years old, that was around 1977, which is coincidentally the same time that he blew up an atomic bomb on the island.
So this raises some big questions about, when did this timeline that we're looking at in LA now, when did that actually diverge? We were under the impression that everything was the same up until they got on the plane, but not so. Jack has a son from a long time ago, and he had his appendix out from a long time ago.
So did setting off that bomb indeed change those timelines way back when?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Something to do with this time jumping thing, I'm sure. A couple of questions raised by all this. Who's David's mother? It can't be Sarah, because that would be way before he met Sarah and fixed her spine and cured her. And there's a point where he sees the appendix scar on his side and is kind of looking at it, like kind of having a Kate moment. Remember when Kate was kind of thinking, wait a minute, am I remembering something?
Something's wrong.
So is Jack remembering the other timeline? Don't know.
Okay, another big storyline in this episode involved Hugo and Jack and Jacob, who's maybe dead, maybe, I don't know.
Who is Jacob?
Yes. Who knows? Anyway, Jacob tells Hugo to take Jack to the lighthouse. Lighthouse? What? Suddenly there's this gigantic lighthouse on this island. How big is this island anyway?
Yeah.
They find this temple that they didn't know exists. They find this lighthouse that is clearly near their beach. I think they're going to find a Walmart one of these days.
That would have been really helpful a while back.
Yeah, it would have.
Well, we find out that this lighthouse is some kind of like crystal ball or something for Jacob, because we see that all these names are inscribed around the big wheel, and they have the numbers, the very famous numbers assigned to them. They're like degree marks on the wheel. And Jacob has told Hugo when they go to the lighthouse to turn that wheel to 108 degrees.
Here's a mind bender, though. If you add Hugo's famous numbers, 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, and 42, what number do you get?
I am shocked by this.
108. So what would we have seen if he had turned the wheel to 108 degrees?
Yeah, we didn't actually get to see that, because Jack decided that he was really upset when he realized that when he turned it to 23, you saw Jack's house, and Jacob's been watching him all this time. So he smashed the mirror. But it appears in some way that Jacob has chosen Jack to be the one. What does that mean? Jacob tells Hugo a kind of fun little quote where sometimes you can just hop in the back of a cab and tell someone what to do. Other times you have to let them stare out at the ocean, which, we pan back and see Jack staring out at the ocean. So Jacob has a plan for Jack. We're just not sure what it is.
Jacob also says to Hugo that someone's going to come to the island and you need to help him find it. Who is that? That's a big question here. Is it Charles Widmore? And presumably that's not a good thing, but who knows?
But that's always Benjamin that's saying that Charles Widmore's evil, so you can't take Ben's word for that.
Right. Okay, the third storyline is Jin and Claire, feral Claire, who's been out being Russo for 3 years in the jungle, and Claire is convinced that the people in the temple have taken her son Aaron and have had him for 3 years.
Yeah. Well, Jin, who is recovering from having been trapped in one of Claire's traps, tries to tell Claire that Kate has had Aaron these last 3 years, that she's been raising him. But then, after he sees Claire basically stick an axe in this guy for what reason we don't know. She just did it out of spite. He changes his story, and we're not sure why he changed his story. Whether it was to save Kate, because maybe Kate was going to get an axe in the heart, if Claire believed him, or if he just really wants to get back to the temple and maybe find Sun there.
One of the big reveals here is Claire, clearly unstable Claire, says that she's not been alone in the jungle for 3 years. She has a friend. And then she drops the creepiest line of the whole episode when she says to Jin, "You're still my friend, aren't you?" And then the big shocker is we find out who her friend is, and it's Locke. Sort of.
Yeah. The fake John Locke walks in, and Claire says, "Oh, that's not John. That's my friend. That's my little friend."
That does it for this week.
Hey, follow Jack Yax on Twitter or become a fan of Jack Jacksonville on Facebook. And until next time,
we're hopelessly lost.
Hey, Tom, you're still my friend, aren't you?